I remember as a teenager and part of a youth group that we had an experience of going on a trust walk. And so what the trust walk is, and maybe you've been on one, is you are blindfolded and then someone, without saying a word to you, comes up and takes you by the hand or the arm and you start walking. You have no idea where you're walking, but you have to have absolute trust in the person who's leading you and guiding you. Well, that was high school. Then I took this course when I got into college, and they did a trust fall. That was a bit more intense because you're not really blindfolded. You just simply stand in one spot, and when they say fall, you just fall backwards and trust there are people there to catch you. That was a bit more intense. So you get your courage up and you do it. It's an interesting experience because it's all about risking and trusting. And this is like our journey through Lent. And yet our eyes are open, and it is the Lord who guides us, who leads us, who catches us, who sustains us. St. Paul's letter speaks to this and what we can consider a mission statement. What is our mission? Who are we and what are we about? And St. Paul opens that up for us. We are called to be courageous in following the dictates of the gospel. We're called to lead a holy life, and that has always been in God's plan. Be holy as your Lord is holy. Yet this doesn't mean that we're going to not experience hardship, discouragement, even failure. Our response to all of this is perseverance. Perseverance, and in all things we are to respond as the Lord teaches us. So when we meet up with anger, and everyone meets up with anger, either within themselves or someone else during their lifetime, the response is love. You meet anger with love. And if anything can diffuse anger, it's love. When we find ourselves struggling in darkness, we meet up with that light that the Lord Jesus is for us. And it helps us to understand that relationship is so strong that God has with us. And then when we meet up with sin, and we do, there isn't one person in this room at some point in their life is not a sinner, not one person in this room. And so when we meet up with sin, our response is mercy, And so again, the underlying principle is risk and trust. Risk that God will be there and trust in him, that whatever comes to you, you are not alone and you don't have to be afraid. The road we walk leads to Calvary, and it's the same road that Jesus walked and the same road that his disciples walked, and we are counted among them. The account of the Transfiguration is one that helps us understand those moments of God's incredible presence when we understand and know that in our lives, and yet, just like Peter, James, and John, they couldn't stay on the top of the mountain. They came back down the mountain as a part of their journey to meet up with the people on the plain. And so as we look at our own lives on this journey through Lent, we have those on top of the mountain moments, and yet we don't stay there. We come down the mountain, as the disciples did, and we walk with Jesus on the road to Calvary. But Calvary isn't the end, is it? Jesus gives his life for us, but then he's raised from the dead, and he says that in the final lines of the gospel: tell this vision to no one until the Son of Man is raised from the dead. As I was pondering and praying over these readings during the week, what came to me in the understanding of risk and trust was the response of the psalm: Lord, let your mercy be upon us as we place our trust in you. And that's exactly what carries us on our journey to Calvary.